Hi community. So recently I was involved in being part of a podcast with my amazing friend and business support person Trina Sunday from Reimagining HR, and we talked through a whole range of stuff around self-care, how work and life are interconnected, and some of the things that you can be looking out for and bearing in mind when you are trying to understand yourself and your mental health and your well-being and all of the factors that are interrelated. So the point I really wanted to make when I was talking to Trina is that work and life are interconnected, and no matter how much we try and separate work from life, it's not always possible, because if something's going on with family, it is inevitably going to affect our work, because we may not be able to concentrate so well, or we may be a bit more distracted, or we have that on our mind, and so we're not putting our time and attention into work, and it can affect our job. It could put people at risk, including ourselves. So one of the things that we talked about, which kind of inspired this video and got me to this point of doing a video for all of you, was that we talked about some of the self-care techniques that I might suggest in session. And I was telling Trina about journaling, and her response was, "What? She's not a journaler." And that's fair enough. Not everyone is. And it's really important to find what works best for you rather than doing what everyone else tells you to do. So I'm a big whiteboarder, thus the reason for the massive whiteboard in my session room. And it's a way for me to help explain to clients some of the factors that I'm talking about, some of the things that are going on for them, and bring it kind of all together. And the good thing is that it doesn't matter whether they're young people or adults that are coming in to see me. They can take a photo of the board at the end of the session, and it serves as a reminder of any techniques we might have talked about, any psychoeducation that we've gone through. So this is a new series of videos that I'm going to do to show you a little bit about how we work in session, and it might give you some tips around your own techniques, your own mental health, your own way of working out who you are, what you need. So the first thing that I'm going to do today is I'm going to whiteboard that shit. So I'm going to put things on the board that relate to our life. I'm going to mind map it. That's what I would normally do in session. But I want everyone to know, do it the way you want to do it. So if you want to kind of do it in a process or a system or dot points or whatever is going to work for you, it doesn't matter. I would recommend having a whiteboard in your room or at home. So when you've got something that's kind of bugging you, you can use that to just nut it out a little bit. That's how I like kind of putting stuff out there. And it might be really helpful. But remember that if you don't want to whiteboard that shit, use piece of paper. Or you could write it on a piece of paper, then you could burn it. Or you could, that's a good way to release everything. Or you could shred it. You could store it in kind of a folder so that you can reflect back. So especially this one that we're doing today, it looks very broadly at a person, and then it's all about finding those things that are kind of impacting you. So let's get started. I am going to give this a go and see how it works. So I'm just going to move the camera up a little bit so you get the full, sorry for the lighting and all that. This is brand new, so work with me. So we can put anyone's name in this circle, and the question will be is if this is going to work out, if I'm going to have to mirror. Anywho, we'll work it out. So what I want to talk you through is all the factors that affect life. And again, this is what I do in session. So often I'd be sort of prompting the client to, what are some of the things that you're aware of that affect you? What do you notice in life that has an influence on you and your well-being? So I might prompt them if they're a little bit like, I don't know, or they might kick it off. So family is one big thing for me that we can really get an understanding of someone's experiences. So within that, we have our extended family. So I normally do this like circle being mum and square being dad. Obviously you can change these around depending on the dynamic of your family. Let's say if a parent has passed, we would put an X through it just to be clear. And again, like you're going to photograph this, so it might be that you have a partner and they have their own parents. You might have siblings. I get super creative with this, and honestly it changes every time I do it. So it starts looking pretty, but by the end it could look like one big hot mess. But sometimes life's like that, right? One big hot mess. So with your partner, you may have children. And another important thing to remember with family is genetics. So this plays a role in our well-being. It could be generational trauma. It could be that there's a family history of mental health challenges. It could be that there are certain factors, genes related to being unwell, or a whole range of things that could influence family and you. So we want to also then think about other things. So we've talked about families, partners, but we also have our other relationships. So these can be relationships that are social. If you don't want to include your partner there, it doesn't matter. Sometimes I just include them here, like an intimate relationship. And it could be work. And obviously this is connected to that. So our relationships with our family. Other things that we would consider, I'm just going to move my little chair around here, do a whole range. I get pretty excited with all this sort of stuff. We could consider the activities that we love to do. Now it's really important to know that this doesn't have to be team sport or anything like that, particularly when I'm working with young people. If teenagers, if they're sort of talking through some of the activities, they go, oh, I'm not into sport. That doesn't matter. What matters is, what are the activities you enjoy? It could be team sport. It could be, I don't know, golf. Not that that's for me, but so individual sports, tennis, that's not really individual. You definitely need someone there. It could be drawing. It could be cooking, knitting, sewing. It could be going to the beach. So as much as possible, we list everything that is important to a client. And this also serves as a basis for when we're talking about coping mechanisms and ways to help you feel better. These are great things to bring back in to be protecting and looking after your mental health. So other things that we want to do, we're going to go down here. I like to keep it kind of moving around the board. Let's talk work. So obviously some of my young people and teenagers I work with, they do work as well as study. But for my adults, I definitely go more in depth with work. With work, I mean, we're talking culture, we're talking location. So being based in WA, there's quite a lot of people that do fly in, fly out. So that can affect things, particularly for the family. It could be how much you earn. It could be progression even, like if you want to progress in your career, is that even an opportunity? I'm going to put safety here. And as we know, there is a lot of information out there, not only just about our physical safety, so trip hazards and exits and being able to get away from the building if you need to, but there's also psychological safety. And with that, that's talking about how safe people are to express themselves within a workplace. So is there problems with culture that lead to bullying, and that could leave someone feeling unsafe? But what I want to really show with this whole thing is that safety can be affected by the things that are external to our work as well. So it's really important to point that out. It could be, I'm just jogging my memory, so I said location, it could be the work day. normally while I'm talking to a client through this, my brain's like, okay, what's next, and I generally miss some stuff, but they'll pick me up or I'll add it as we're going. Like, this is life, right? This is some of the things that we do. We can't get it all right all the time. So, and I put myself a little note just to make sure that I've got everything going. So we talked about safety and risk. We talked about our work peers, so the people we work with, which can have a massive effect on how well we're doing. It could be the actual job that we do, so tasks, what the role is, what we even feel about the role. Are we inspired at work, or is it really challenging to do? Okay, so we've got work, we've got family, relationships, activities, we've got some of the big ones. We want to also include health. And again, I find it really important to bring up the fact that we have mental health and physical health. So it's super important to recognize everything that impacts our health. Mental health, it could be neurodiversity, ADHD, autism, learning disorders. It could be anxiety, depression, burnout, stress, all part of your mental health. And it could show up in little things that you do, or it could lead to some really significant health issues. So, and bearing in mind, mental health affects our physical health and vice versa. So it's really important to have both of them up here. Physical health as well, that is all about our structure, our function, our ability to move, and particularly if you're, say, doing a physical job or you're doing a lot of study, you want to know that your physical health is at a really good place to be able to kind of manage the stresses of life and do all the things that you need to do. This also gives us a little bit of a reminder of things like, for both of them, who are our health professionals that help us, chiropractors, physios, psychologists, counsellors, doctors, and are we checking in and are we doing the things that we should be doing? So for my young people in particular, we would talk about school, and you obviously do this according to your life. So if you're not at school, don't include it. If you want to study though, include it. So especially if you're trying to work out whether this is something to add, it's a great thing, because then you can start just getting a really good, clear idea of all the factors that might contribute to your well-being or perhaps to your stress if you decide to go back and study. So with school or uni, whatever TAFE that you're going to do, we've got our educators, our teachers that are teaching us. And believe me when I say that some teachers make a subject incredible. And for a young person, they might go from disliking something like math to having this incredible teacher that then they start loving math, and vice versa. So it can also have a negative correlation to that. So again, I'm going to focus on school, but obviously it relates to study as well. So it could be the subjects that you're doing. It could be the year level that they're in. So year 11 and 12 obviously is going to be a lot more stressful than, say, year 7. Well, it should be, let me tell you. It's not always, but it should be. It could be your peers, and culture, a little bit like work, a little bit more restrictive at a school environment, because you can't always just get away from people. Can't at work always either, but I don't know. It could be a bit both. So I love this job. It's depending on the person, right? So if you're digging into something about school, they might feel that they are trapped and not able to get out, whereas they could go to work and feel like they've got a bit of choice, a bit more choice to say, actually, I don't like it, so I'm going to get out. But maybe they don't, because there could be financial pressure and they can't leave work. So you can see how it's so interrelated and interconnected. Environment is super important, which this is my brain going again, because environment is also a work factor. Is it hot? Is it outside, inside? I put location, but that could just be driving 20 minutes away. But then a really difficult, heavy workload sort of thing, or heavy duty stuff. What else have we got? Teacher subjects, year level. Support within the school as well. Actually, again, we could include that here with work. Is there support? So you can see as you're kind of working through these different things, it's like, what are all the factors? And I did a workshop at one stage with a group of leaders in a workplace, and we were doing work, and what they were coming up with was just expanding the picture even more. So this is brilliant. You can brainstorm with other people. It's a great way to kind of get it all out there and then go, oh yeah, life is busy, right? Let's think about other things that might be affecting you. Now look, we can talk trauma. Hope you can still see me. Trauma, so this could be past events. It could be generational trauma. And just bearing in mind that if you're digging into some of that stuff, please just make sure that you have ways to look after yourself while you're doing it and support people, cheerleaders who can help you out if you're finding that digging into that a little bit starts to get a bit tough and show up a lot of things. But it could also explain some other things that are going on in your life. So it's really important not to ignore it and to include it and have it as a factor, but also how you work through that. It's really important to kind of think through how that's going to happen. Okay, so look at environment in general. So our physical environment, where we live, is it safe? You can let me know if I make spelling mistakes. No judgment in this room, so we're all human. Sometimes that happens. So where we live, and it could be like, are you renting or mortgage? I mean, that's massive, right? If you, especially at the moment with the rental crisis that's happening, if you rent and there's a factor of the owner of the business of your house might be selling or something, that puts a lot of stress and pressure on you. So definitely consider things like that. Also, it factors into family. So, have you got young people living with you or not? Or are you living on your own? Is it a safe area? So I'll just put things like here, like risk. Also, if you've worked a really long day and you've got to come home and cook and clean, again, that's a factor, right? So we've done study in school. So why do we work? Financial, there we go. Financial security or lack thereof. So sometimes my brain works faster than my writing, so I always miss letters. So financial security, again, this plays into work. So how much are we earning? How much is the, if there's financial pressure because we've got our kids going to a private school, that's going to put pressure on ability to say go on holidays or being able to do the things that you love. It could be a massive factor as well in why we work. It feeds into our environment. Do we rent? Do we pay a mortgage? Things like that. I'm trying to make it all look neat with my little boxes. I know that it looks a lot, right? And sometimes for young people, they go, whew, that's really overwhelming. But it just shows the complexity of life, and that it's not as simple as, I need to get better or do better or whatever it may be. We've got things like nutrition, fueling our body, making sure that we have the nutrients we need to be well and healthy. Again, feeds into health. Let me see how I can do this. You get right at what I mean, right? Sleep. This one here feeds into things like movement, and even like if you love to travel. Imagine how much during COVID, not being able to travel for some people had a massive impact on other areas of their life. So it's really important you could include your dreams, your goals, you could do so much. I'm always time bound, so I put as much information as I can that's really important to consider. Actually, everything's important to consider, but given time. if you've got some time, or if you want to put this up and then just keep adding, and then you can get like different colors and be kind of putting them around, and I like doing that too. So I'm a bit of a color girl. So I'm going to go through here and add, there was another one that I felt really important to add. Oh, biology. So the reasons that we want to, especially like for myself, the age I am, leaning into things like menopause, and that has an effect. So let me tell you, it has an effect on family, that's for sure. But what we want to show here is that hormones play an important role, and this is also, and I'm going to put brain development, because this is also really important. If you have young people, their hormones are changing a lot when they're young, and so you're seeing different emotional dysregulation, mood swings, things like that. Just to be clear, that is one factor, not always the reason, and that's also important to note if you have a partner going through menopause. That's one factor, just so you know. So keep that in mind. It's a great thing to include. There's also things like religion, whether you are attached or disconnected from your religion, really important to include. Culture, heritage, all those things. Now, as I said, I always forget stuff. Well, here we go. Identity, sexuality, a little box around them. You know what I mean? It's looking busy, isn't it? Hopefully you can like see it the way it's meant to be and not back the front. I'm no tech savvy person. Get me in front of a whiteboard anytime, but how do I get this information out to you if I don't put it up here? I am thinking through, do we? Did I miss anything? I don't think I did. I think I've got everything. Your life, you may find that there are certain things that when you're looking at this, you go, oh, right, yeah, I want to add something else here. Like you might have moved away from your country and moved to Australia if you're watching this in Australia. So then there's loss of country and grief around that. So I think, that comes with culture and heritage, but environment even of moving around, and it's really important to include it. I'm just going to quickly grab another pen. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm going to go with this one. Hopefully it works. What I really want you to understand and know that's really important, a lot of people when they start thinking through mental health, they're like, oh my God, I've just got to get better, or even physical health or work or whatever it might be, I've got to do better. And so they think they have to do, oh, this is not going to show up, is it? I don't think it's going to show up. Let me get a different color. Oh my gosh, what is it when you want a different color? You can never find one. Yeah, welcome to my sessions. This is literally what it's like. So, does that work better? 100%. If we said you're going to work on 100%, bearing in mind I could put any name here, we all have these factors that show up and influence our life. That is overwhelming, right? If you're looking at 100% of your life going, holy shit, where do I even start? You don't start because you don't know where to start. What I do in session is I ask clients to break it down. So out of that 100%, break that into 3 really important areas. So if they say to me, well, it's more like work, I'd put at 40%. This also tests my math to make sure we calculate it right. And it's so super funny when they do the same thing. So we have a laugh together, not me laughing at them, just to be clear. So they might say 40% with work, really, really important. They might say health is 30% and relationships or family, 30%. So then we are not focusing all of our time and energy on just one thing. I might also then say to them, okay, within say these 3, what are your priorities? Like, prioritize them 1, 2, and 3, and they might say work is 1, health is 2, and relationships 3. So that's also how we'd sort of set up our treatment plan, because we'd be focusing on what is their highest priority. But also, what I really, really want to stress is none of this sits in isolation. So if you are not sleeping well, it impacts your ability to do your job. If you are struggling, like me, at an age where it might affect relationships, or even to the point if you're driving home and you're getting caught in traffic and you're getting really stressed, and then you finally get home and it affects family because it's been a stressful journey home. So everything influences each other. So even while I'm prioritizing maybe work and focusing in on that, if we're working through things about work and uncovering what areas and what factors are contributing to well-being, we're already working on mental health and physical health and their general health. And also, if work is really stressful and it's affecting relationships at work, it's also affecting relationships at home, which affect your health. So everything, I love little dots and stuff to really prove a point, everything's connected. So that way, and I know that this might look like a lot, and you could easily do this on paper, A3 colour paper, whatever you like to, and get a whole range of pens, use different colours, highlight where the ones are. And also I want to stress that you might be tempted to go, oh my gosh, I want to like focus on everything, so I'll give everything 10%. But yes, that will help, and small adjustments can make a massive difference. But again, it's still overwhelming if I've got to, set boundaries at work, then I've got to go to my doctor, then I've got to spend more time with my partner, then I have to eat better, sleep better. Even if it is 10%, it just feels a lot. So narrow it down as much as you can. Sleep is critical. It's like our foundation for everything else. So there's always going to be a little bit of sleep psychoeducation in a session, and checking in on how hard is it to get to sleep, stay asleep, how long do you sleep, all of those things. So sleep should always just be in the back of your mind and checking in on how that's going. But generally, that's how it works when I whiteboard that shit. And then people can obviously take a photo. I suggest to them, go home, write it out yourself. You could then have your own mind map related to family and break all that down. You could have work, break that down, and you can just get more into like digging down, like peeling out an onion. So again, what I want to say is nothing sits in isolation. Everything affects the other. It's really important to recognize that there are lots of different factors that influence health and well-being. Be kind to yourself. By doing this, you can start to just get a greater awareness of what's going on in your life, and that's when change starts to happen. We can't change anything we're not aware of. So by increasing awareness and raising kind of attention to the things that matter and factor in your life, you can then start to make change, and hopefully you're feeling better and looking after yourself and your well-being. So thank you so much for joining me and in this session with Michelle, and me showing you and talking you through all the factors that influence life. Have an amazing day.